Welcome to Module 4 of this MVA course on Windows Phone 8.1 Enterprise Mobility Management. In the previous modules we've taken a look at mobile device management, and in the last module we took a look at the start of mobile application management, and we deployed a couple of applications to our company portal. In this module we're going to be taking a look at application control. We're going to be looking at app blocking and whitelisting and tons of other things, and joining me to do that is Mike. Mike, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. Hi, I'm Mike Donoski. If you've seen some of the previous modules, you've seen me before, as well as my colleague David Alessi, who covered the first module on mobile application management. As he had mentioned, we are support engineers, support topic owners for Windows Phone, working out of Dallas, Texas, supporting our enterprise customers with their needs, both proactive and reactive as they come across. And so, focusing on Windows Phone, we're going to help you out today with looking into some great features that you can enable and some applications that you can manage on the Windows Phone through SCCM, working with Intune in a hybrid environment.
And we're going to do that by starting to take a look at the last parts of the application lifecycle management process, the reporting parts of that process. We're then going to have a look at how policies can affect the applications that are installed onto a Windows Phone device. And then finally we're going to take a look at assigned access. Kind of think of that as taking a Windows Phone, turning off all of the features except for exactly the ones that you want to be available to your end users. Could be a particular application, could be for a very particular need, like, say, for example, turning a Windows Phone device into a point-of-sale device. So, whereabouts are we going to make our start? Application lifecycle management, I think.
Yeah, we're going to jump right into a demo here. So we've got our SCCM console open here on the left. And on the right here, we've just got a test device. So on the left here, we're looking at our content status. And as you can see here, this is where you're going to go once you deploy something to see if it's actually deployed and if you're getting any responses back from the device when it goes to query to see if everything is going successfully. So there's a couple ways you can do this. One of the quickest ways is you can go to deployments. And so if you've seen our previous demo, and we can check this again with one of our other demos that we do in this module, you can click on a deployment and view its status. And what that's going to do is it's going to go ahead and give you a quick summary on how everything's going in your environment. As you can see, this is great. We're only pushing to one device, which is our test device, and we're having success. So this is everything green. You can set this up to give you different sort of reports when things aren't being met. We're also going to do a couple quick queries. So if you go up to queries, if you have the servicing role installed, you can see some very good information that's going to help you manage your environment. So here we're looking at all of the devices we have enrolled. We can go in and do some reports. Say that we want to see, say that there's an app that came out that maybe there's a security vulnerability. It's been checked in the store, but despite all efforts, something came through. You can go in, or it might be one of your line of business apps. You can go in and check by GUID for the that specific GUID and see what users have it installed. Here we're going to go ahead and look at basic app deployment. Let's see. We're going to run this.
You might also, of course, just want to know who's installed Halo onto one of their phones that's a company-owned asset. You might just want to know, is anybody actually going and installing Halo onto their devices?
Exactly.
Yeah, you might have a big problem with that.
So here we have a choice on what we want to choose by. We're going to go ahead and do that by collection. We're going to do a user collection. You can also do it by application and supply that GUID for the application. We're going to get our selection. We're going to do MVA demo and see what applications we have. Let's see. Going to do all. All right, we're going to go ahead and view our report here. Again, we're looking at our MVA collection for all of the applications and see what we get in our report. If you watched Module 3 where we deployed apps, this is the collection that we were deploying our apps to.
This is kind of one of those interesting things. It's probably going to come back to us with report answers quite quickly. We don't have lots of devices out there. There's not tons and tons of information inside of our SQL database, so it's going to come back quite quickly. Your mileage may vary here. It may take some time to run some of these reports.
So here we've got our 3 applications that we have on these devices. It says success is 0%. That could be for multiple reasons. We're going to go ahead and scroll over a bit. You can see the date created, modification time, and the version of the apps. So you get the idea on just how powerful this tool is. Another great way to see what's deployed is simply by going to the user or device. So we're going to go to our MVA demo user. We're going to go see properties, and we can see what's deployed. This is great for if you're in your test environment and you have a bunch of different test users and you want to go enroll one on a new device. You want to make sure that you're not going to enroll into a configuration baseline that's going to lock down that device.
Yeah.
And
it is showing you literally your baselines, your applications all together, and all of the applications that you've set to uninstall as well.
Exactly. Great. So that is reporting, and moving on, we're going to show you another great feature.
So we're going to look at how policies affect apps.
Exactly.
Right, so if we move back to the deck very quickly, we've got a couple of screenshots in there, some stuff that you want to talk to.
Yeah, definitely. So we talked about policies in our previous modules, but really in this section we're going to talk about how these policies are going to affect the application experience and app management. Real quick here on the slide, we've got that, as we saw in some of the previous modules, that we can disable the Store and Internet Explorer. We can also disable Cortana. What we're going to focus on here in this next demo is allowing and denying apps through an allow and deny list. And we're also going to look at copy and paste blocking, which we did before, which affects how apps are going to be able to interact with each other. So we're going to jump right into app allow deny. So here we are in our configuration items screen under our MVA demo folder, and we're going to go ahead and create a new configuration item. We're going to go ahead and name this our MVA demo. And you know what? Let's go ahead and disable the games app. So we're going to, actually I'm going to rename that so that I know it's specifically a deny app. So if I see that coming across in my reporting later, because a user is complaining that his Halo game isn't working, we know exactly what's going on there. As we saw in some of the previous modules, I'm going to go ahead and specify that it is for a mobile device. And here's the interesting part. So currently in Intune, there's no UI for this feature, mostly because the way that we implement it is through a custom XML blob that you're going to have to create yourself. There are some great samples in the MDM white paper, which is available out on TechNet. Luckily, I have some prepared for us today. So
you don't have to type in raw XML just in order to do that. Good to be able to copy and paste.
Yes. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to go ahead and click this box here at the bottom that says configure additional settings that are not in the default settings group. And we're going to be taken to this page. Here's where we can add a custom setting. So we're going to create a setting. I'm going to call it, we'll just call it deny games. And you can do this for any, as I'm going to show you in the XML, you can do this for any app that's available, so long as you have the GUID. Something to note is that if it is an inbox app, you will need the GUID that is available in the app manifest. Also, if you're writing your own app that you're going to be pushing out, you're going to be able to find that GUID in the app manifest file. So let's see. Here we have our OMA URI that we have to specify. That's basically when the policy comes down to the phone, it's so that the phone knows what CSP to contact to write these changes to the registry so that it's actually saving the data and denying the app.
Cool.
I'm going to go back to my desktop here where I have my XML saved, and we are going to use a deny list. I'm going to go ahead and show a couple of these. So this up here at the top, this is our OMA URI. And I'm going to zoom in on this if I can. Oh, maybe not.
So that's actually, in essence, telling the device, this is the registry key. This is the location on the device where the setting's stored.
Exactly. And we're going to go ahead and paste that down here. Typos here will bring you to a screeching halt. And it'll actually show up in reporting. When you look at the deployment, it'll tell you remediation has failed. And so you can kind of troubleshoot from there, so you know that the infrastructure is working, everything's working, SCCM is pushing to Intune, the phone is going up to Intune and pulling down the policy, but when the phone is actually trying to enact that policy, it's having an issue, and it's going to send that reporting back up to SCCM, or Config Manager.
Yeah.
Yes. So make sure that this is a string. If you are going to be sending just a 1 or a 0, definitely make sure that it's an integer. This will work for, again, I keep plugging the white paper. The white paper goes through all of the CSPs that we have available. The document's really intended if you're going to be writing your own MDM server. So all the information, imagine all of the information that would be required for that, you have available for just your settings here. So this looks all good. We know what we're doing here. And now we are in this list. Easy way to find it, sort by one of these empty settings, and we'll find it right here. We're going to select it, and then I'm going to jump back. So if you watched our previous module, this will look familiar. We're going to set our rule. So this is the compliance rule, basically the logic statement that the configuration item is going to be evaluating.
Yep.
And if it's found not to be true, we're going to go ahead and remediate this. Again, this is a very, very important step of pushing out a policy, to definitely click remediate. Otherwise, you're just going to get a report on who has games denied. Probably not going to come back with anything.
Yeah.
And you'll soon realize that that's why. So here I have a formatted list. When I say formatted, the difference here is that with the other version, we actually have it in a single line. So that's going to be important because that single line is what we're actually going to be entering into that tiny UI box here. It's quite small. The whole XML will fit. So just trust me on it and test by yourself and verify
that's just
it.
a case of taking out all the carriage returns on the ends of the lines to fit it onto one line. It's no big deal.
Exactly. And so here we go. We've got our app policy version. And so when we're looking at our XML here, we've got our deny part. And here we have a little comment here just to remind us. So when we look at this XML, we know what we're doing. We're denying the games app with that GUID. And so we're going to specify the product ID. Another caveat here is that this must be lowercase. So I've already gone and formatted this back over to one line, but while we're kind of talking about syntax and syncml, I'm going to go back and show you another example. So here's just all of the different possibilities you have when you're customizing your XML. You can see here at the top, we've got just the standard syncml configuration there. We've got a deny list here. We're denying app 1. This is just an example again. We've got a windowsphone.com GUID here. Mm-hmm. If this is an internal app, you're going to have to definitely either go to the white paper and grab it, or if it's a line of business app, find it in the app manifest, or once you load it into SCCM, you'll see the GUID there. Another easy way to do, and what we've actually done in our test environment, so lessons learned to you guys out there, is you're going to want to... You can actually do it by publisher. So you can specify your own publisher name as an allow. And we'll go over an allow list in a minute. And real quick, let me do something to help you guys see this. We're going to go ahead and run Zoom It, which is a great tool, especially when you're doing demos, so that you can zoom in on this type of information. So let's see if that works. Yes, yeah. Perfect. A Control-1 will bring you right in, close and tight, so we can take a good close look at this. Here we go, right up here at the top, we've got our deny app with Windows Phone. Whoop. Bring us back down over here. And there we go. Perfect. So we're denying app 1 with windowsphone.com GUID, and then we're specifying, so here the actual syntax is that we do app product ID, specify the product ID. You can also do a publisher name. I recommend doing an allow list for your own publisher name so that you don't push out your company. You have an allow list, you specify only the few apps you want, it kind of slips your mind, and suddenly your company portal is no longer accessible by your users. Yep. And then that also is a future proof, so if you push out a line of business app later, it's going to be published by you. It's going to be allowed automatically so long as that's on all of your devices. Here we are denying our publisher Contoso. We're also denying our publisher Fabricam, but we're going to put a little exception in there. We're going to allow app product ID with that specific GUID as well. So
it's in essence that's saying if Fabricam has published an app with this GUID, then that's okay, but everything else by Fabricam, we don't want that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Great.
It's kind of cool that you can mix and match those the allow and the deny list like that. As granularly as you can do that.
it's extremely customizable for exactly what you want. And I'm going to show you guys an allow list as well. Of course, the difference is an allow list. So let's start with a deny list because it's a little more straightforward. A deny list is, say that there's just a few apps out there that you know that you don't want users to use. The problem with that is that once you start getting into hundreds of apps or thousands of apps that you don't want users to use, it becomes very hard to manage. So we also have an allow list where you can specify only the apps that you want a user to be allowed to install. So here we're allowing only the settings app. So this is a fairly tight...
locked down.
Yes, this is very locked down. And we're actually going to deploy this to show you guys what it looks like on a device. So you'll get a very good default setting so you know where your good starting point is when you start adding apps into this allow list to customize your user experience in your environment. So we'll go back to the desktop. We're going to grab my allow list here. Whoop. Allow list. We've got it already formatted here in one line. Good thing to note is that it is the same exact CSP. The same CSP handles allow and deny lists. And you'll actually see here the same XML tag here for app policy. And I'll show you the difference there when we get to assigned access on some of the other options there. So we've got that copied. We're going to go back to Config Manager. And we're going to paste this value in here. Perfect. And then I'm just going to give it a quick look through, make sure that everything looks. Yeah, I see some allows. I see a GUID, product ID, and there's our nice comment so that when we look back at this, we know what we're doing. And then just some syntax bits.
Yeah, and you just want to be checking for things like the square character that just can randomly appear sometimes inside of a text file. Yeah.
So great. This is all created. We're going to close this. And I'm actually going to take a quick look at this again just to make sure everything looks good. All right, great. We've got equals here. We're remediating. We have a name, and we have our entry there. Great. So we're going to go ahead and look at supported platforms. Of course, since this is a custom setting, we won't be getting any report back on whether or not a device knows if it's going to be able to support this because it's not sure. So we're going to go ahead and push this through. Something else. So I talked about a deny list in which we deny just a few apps. I'm going to show you what that looks like on a device here. Here you can see we've pushed down if you watched our previous modules, we disabled IE and we disabled the store. That configuration item is still living on this device, but there's no, so we've actually disabled the games as well.
Yeah.
You can see here. So you get a nice little UI prompt so you don't just fail out to a black screen and your users are confused. It actually lets them know this app has been disabled by a company policy. Please contact your company support person for help. The same as when you have denied through another policy. So that's great. We're going to go ahead and deploy this out. We can close this guy. So we have MVA deny games. We're going to create a baseline. So we're actually not denying games. We're allowing only settings. But I'm going to go ahead and push it out anyways. I'm actually going to make this MVA allow settings configuration baseline. Just something I've gotten in the habit of just with my own. That's my own personal thing I like to do is throw it in there because you can see a list of items or properties and you've named them all the same thing and you're like, okay, is this a baseline or the setting or...
Yeah, it's something I quite often do when I'm trying to work out this new feature, how is it coming together. I start to just tag things with CB for configuration baseline or CI for configuration item, just so that I know what's going on where. But it's really good practice to go and do that in a production environment as well.
And actually, it looks like I have double named something, so I am going to go through and I am going to rename this. It is all caps, but I just want to be 100% certain that what I'm doing is correct. So we're going to do allow settings. Great. So we're going to go ahead and add that to a configuration baseline. We're going to be running through the same process for assigned access, and I'll show you guys that in a minute here. So we're going to create a new configuration baseline, and if you have a configuration baseline that's already being pushed to a device, you can go ahead and add this configuration item to it, but just for my own sanity and
Yeah, and just for ease of
keeping
demo.
everything organized, I am just going to go ahead and add it. So we have renamed it to MVA allow settings. Great. And we're going to name this.
So the implicit thing with a with an allow list is as soon as you allow an app, you deny everything else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So now that we have that set up, we're going to push it out. If you've worked with allow deny lists before in big windows, it's very similar as far as what your logic is on how you're going to.
It's kind of like app
put that
blocker,
out.
isn't it? That's
Exactly.
kind of the similar kind of approach to allowing and denying apps.
So we're going to go ahead and deploy this to, oh, not this guy. We're going to deploy it to this user here, who's in our user collection of MVA demo, which is right here. And we're going to remediate non-compliant rules. Of course, always remediate, unless you could not remediate if you just want to report.
Yep.
If you want to see some basic settings.
Yeah,
Or
if you wanted to know how many devices you were going to cripple by just enabling just the settings application,
Yes.
then it could be kind of useful.
Great. So there we go. We are deployed. If you've watched any of our previous modules, you'll understand that the architecture here requires a little bit of time. There's a lot going on behind the scenes. We're actually taking everything from our SQL database on this config manager server. It's going up to Intune. It's going to live in Intune. And then the phone is going to be able to run back to Intune to pull these policies down. A lot of moving parts in the background.
Yeah.
So
Might take us a couple of refreshes to get that through. Might take you a couple of refreshes to get that through when you're testing this back at your own lab as well.
might be a good time to go get lunch or go grab a snack or
Yeah.
something and come back. So while we're doing that and we're kind of waiting for that to flow down, we're going to jump right into our next section with assigned access. So if we go back to our slides, assigned access, if you've worked with Windows, of course it's a new feature there as well. It's a great way to specifically crunch down just exactly what you want the users to be able to do. You can specify multiple apps, but maybe a single app is a great experience for you. So if you want just a simple device that's just going to be running your line of business app, it's the only thing your customers can use. Assigned access also locks down buttons, so they're not going to be doing using the search feature. And also the home feature, I believe, can be locked down. And then also there's some cool stuff in the XML that there's actually some custom buttons. So if you have an OEM who's maybe putting a Facebook button or something interesting like that, something creative onto the device, you can actually lock that down as well. So it's kind of future-proof in that sense. We're going to also be able to push down settings profiles. So if you have a specific Wi-Fi access point that you only want these users to be using, you can do that.
Push that down.
And then a great thing about assigned access is you can really get deep in what you couple it with as far as your settings. So it pairs really, really well with app allow deny. And so you can leave the store enabled, you can deny apps in the store, but you can still allow for those apps to be updated, where if you deny the store or disable the store, you still can't update those store apps. Yeah. So it works really well with a bunch of other features. You can turn off the ability to manage Wi-Fi profiles from the device, so you can push the profiles you want and then disable the user from connecting to other profiles. Very great for security. You can also go ahead and disable unenrollment, so your users can't unenroll. You can also disable factory reset. So when you're talking about wanting a device that only does one or two things, and you don't want a lot of extra data going out all over the place, you can lock it down very, very tightly.
Yeah, makes it really perfect for being able to deploy a kind of point-in-time solution for something, like, for example, being able to lock down a device to being a point-of-sale device, or locking down a device to being a census device, or something like that, where maybe they only have one or two Wi-Fi profiles. Very, very cool.
Yeah. Feature I've had a lot of fun with. Of course, when you're testing, be sure to leave yourself ways to get back out. So if you are going to shut down all the different settings that you can configure, I guess that's another point. You can go through the big list of settings and actually specify only the settings you want to be configurable from the device. One thing about that is if you don't give yourself the ability to unenroll, or you shut off Wi-Fi, or you disable factory reset, it quickly becomes very difficult to get back to a usable state. It's fine in emulators because you can just go ahead and reflash the device or the emulator. But when you're talking about physical devices, it could become a hairy situation very quickly.
Yeah, refreshing a physical device is kind of hard.
Also, another important thing to note is that a lot of those settings where you are making a very customized device that's very locked down are only intended for corporate devices. You're not going to want to do this to your BYOD guys who bring in their device just because they want to use the internal app and get to some email features and get some certificates in VPN. You don't want to make it a horrible experience for them by locking down those apps and making it...
Yeah, and what you'd probably do realistically there is you create a collection which would be your lockdown devices, maybe your point-of-sale devices. The people inside of that collection wouldn't be the same users that are inside of the collection for the BYOD devices. You'd want to target that very differently. And that would make complete sense because the chances are that the people that are using those devices that have been completely locked down, completely set up with assigned access, they're not going to be using their own accounts to sign on to them.
And actually, another great feature on that is that in Config Manager, if we go back to my Config Manager session here, you can see that we can actually click on a device. So let's go ahead and do MVA Demo 1. And if we wanted to, we could actually change ownership on that device. That's no longer a personal device, that's a company device. So if we go ahead and run a collection that's going to add all the company devices to it, and then deploy just to that collection, we're going to get all of those company devices there. And every time you have a new user who's using it, you don't have to dive into your Config Manager console and configure it. It'll be nice and squeaky clean automatic. So we're going to go ahead and dive right into our assigned access demo. I, of course, have our prepared XML, but let's go ahead and look at what's actually being pushed down here. Oh, that's not the correct one. We want to look at this one. So here is my formatted XML. And again, this doesn't cover all of the options that are available for configuring this XML. This is just a nice sample. The MDM white paper that's available on TechNet, and we'll provide a link to in our notes for this module, goes very, very in-depth on all the things that you're going to be able to configure. Here you can see that we've got another feature I forgot to mention, Action Center. You can disable Action Center, or the Notification Center in Windows Phone 8.1. The name for it here in the syntax is Action Center. You'll notice there is a little bit of back and forth between what it's called on the device and what we call it in the syncml, but it's pretty straightforward. Here we are talking about our apps. So we are specifying 3 apps we want to be able to run. I can tell you from experience that this is Office, Settings, and Internet Explorer, I believe, but we'll see that when we come back out. Always good to leave comments, of course. This one is not as picky about having your GUIDs in all lowercase, but as you can see here, we're pinning this to start. We're going to specify the size of the tile, the location of the tile. We're going to talk, then we're ending our pin to start an application, but you'll also notice right after the GUID, we're specifying whether or not this is auto run. This is a really great feature if you do have just one single app. As soon as they start up the phone, instead of being greeted with they are going to get the lock screen, of course, if it's locked down, but instead of being greeted with their tiles or settings, you can send them straight into the app. So you have a very streamlined experience. It's great for, as you mentioned, point-of-sales devices. And here the X and Y location. X, of course, is your... Let's see, that is your left and right, and Y is up and down. So this is a medium, so it's 0, 0. The next one is medium as well, so I've put that at 0, 2, so that it's just slightly below it. And then we've got 0, 4 for the location down here. Let's see, on that last app. And so you can get pretty fine-grained with exactly what you want the user experience to look like.
I'm presuming those XY locations are actually pixels, and they're small tile locations.
They're tile location, exactly. So... one would just be half of a normal size tile, so essentially a quarter of the screen. Again, the white paper has a pretty good explanation on this, and you probably will have to test around with it to get a handle on it. The next part I'm going to scroll down to, so we're closing off our app section, we're getting into buttons. We are talking about a button lockdown list, as I mentioned earlier. We've got a couple options here that we're talking about. You also have to specify the action of the button. So if you just want to disable being able to press and hold and bring up the voices or the Cortana in Windows Phone 8.1, you can do that by just disabling the search button, press and hold. So here we're disabling the camera button. I misspoke earlier. You can't disable the home button. It is the camera button, the search button, and then custom 1, 2, 3, which are, as I mentioned, buttons that may be entered by the OEM at later times.
Yeah.
So just to be safe, we're locking all of those down. Another option that you have is you can disable, you can actually remap a button. I'm not doing that here, but you could say, instead of hitting the camera button, I want that to launch our line of business app. And so they hit the camera button, and that's going to launch their line of business app.
Yeah, that'd be quite cool. Yeah.
Extremely powerful. Here we're disabling menu items. So that's the context menu when you hold down a button. So being able to pin to start, unpin to start, we're going to disable that. Moving down to settings. Here's where I was talking about you can specify just exactly fine-grain the settings that you want. Here we want Wi-Fi so that we always can configure to get back to our MDM server.
Yep.
We're putting About so that you can factory reset the phone. We're going to be able to provide some feedback. And then we're also doing Company Account, which is Workplace in Windows Phone 8.1, so that we can go in there and sync if we need, which in a demo like this, we will definitely need to do. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys I say it's powerful. If you don't believe me, I want to show you this. This is a sample XML straight out of the white paper. You can see that this admin, maybe this is his full-time job creating this XML. This is quite intricate on just exactly all of the apps that he's specifying, where they are. This gets down. So actually a great tool for this is if you want to just start toying around with assigned access, is you can actually take this sample and just start omitting things that you don't want in your image.
Yeah. Cool idea.
So here we are looking at all of the different settings that are in here. I believe this list is thorough and captures all of them. So if you don't want VPN, just take it off the list. Go ahead and deploy it. So here we go. Let's get started. First, we got this guy that we went ahead and pushed the deny list to, or the allow list to rather, so he should be able to do nothing but what we told him that he was allowed to do. And once that's done syncing, we'll look at that. In the meantime, on the left, let's go ahead and get back into it. Let's go create a new configuration item. Let's call this one MVA assigned access. Whoop. And we're pushing this to a mobile device. I'm going to move a little bit quicker on this one. We're going to configure an additional setting. If you need to pause for this, go ahead and pause. We're going to create a setting. We do need our OMA URI. I feel that by this time, if you're unsure where to get it, you could probably guess.
Is it in the white paper?
I think it is.
Yeah.
I think it is.
We will make sure that we have a link to the white paper.
Of course.
That is actually just one line, isn't it?
This is one line.
It is just that it's reached the very end of Notepad's capabilities.
It's actually wrapped, yeah. It's, yep. So that's it. It looks great there. A little bit hard to manage if you want to make some small tweaks. You can just put a couple returns in here, manage what you need, or if you're just switching out a GUID, you can do that, but just make sure that you know where you are.
There's a couple of other text editor apps out there that make it a little bit easier to manage single line XML.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and not paste this in here. Almost made a mistake. We are using our OMA URI. We are not onto the XML blob yet. Here we go. We're going to paste that right in there. Perfect. Looks good. Assigned access looks spelled correctly. And you'll notice that the vendor MSFT part here in the beginning is the same as the previous, but the rest of this is telling it where to go, where it differs from when we were pushing this down to the allow deny. So we're going to select OK. Oh, I did not name it. Oh, that's where we went wrong.
It's handily named that for us.
Let's start that guy over. We can change that later. So let's call this rule for assigned access. It's going to be a value equals. So this is our OMA URI that we're pushing to. And these following values, again, it doesn't look like it should go in there, but it will. paste that right in there. Just do a quick glance through it, just to make sure that it looks like everything's there. Yeah, I see some button event names, just to make sure that both halves of it, maybe you just selected one line. Looks like everything's there. We're obviously remediating again. I can almost guarantee that if you ran a report for that and didn't remediate, you would probably get nothing back.
Yeah.
Unless you've got some really top-notch people out there who are setting their own assigned access on their phones. So here we go. I'm going to edit this. Nope, that's great. Okay, next. Of course, this isn't going to know whether or not this is applicable to these devices. We're going to take a look here. That looks fine. I'm going to close that out. I'm going to go ahead and close this as well while we're here. Just to clean up a bit. And so we're looking at assigned access. We want to go ahead and add that to a configuration baseline within our MVA demo folder. I'm going to sync this guy just for good measure over here on the right while we're going. Again, as a reminder, he's got our allow list over there where he's only allowed to run settings.
Yep.
Exactly. So we're going to do MVA assigned access. And just to make sure, I'm going to throw a 1 at the beginning, just for simplicity's sake when I'm digging for it in the deploy. Oh. And if you're paying attention, you've noticed I've just made a mistake.
Definitely some configuration data.
Yeah, I'm missing the configuration item. Exactly. So we're going to go ahead and add that back. If you do go to properties, you can always add configuration items back to a configuration baseline. And we have called this MVA assigned access. There we go. Intuitive. All right, great. And we're going to go ahead and hit OK. We're going to deploy this guy. Now that we have everything in there, of course, it's one MVA assigned access, remediate non-compliant settings, remediate maintenance window. We're going to select our collection. We're going to push this to this same device. Before we push that out there, and I say push, what I really mean is that we're making the policy available.
Yeah.
It is a polling architecture, so we're not actually pushing, it's polling. Let's see what this guy looks like. So there we go. We've got him denied on games. I may have put a different... Oh, there we go, actually. This is right. Okay, yeah, I just don't have anything pinned to the front. So this is what an allow list looks like. And you might ask, why do I see all these other apps available here? So there are certain inbox apps that you actually can't deny. So we've got calculator, calendar, camera, battery saver, alarms. I recommend testing this first before going out and deploying it. You can see that our Bing apps here are finance, food and drink, games, health and fitness have been disabled. So by default, this isn't going to disable absolutely everything in the store. You can see that settings is still enabled, which is the allow list that I put in there. But you aren't totally locking it down. If you want a total lockdown, that's when you're going to start thinking about crossing over into using assigned access.
Right.
So let's go ahead and push this out to MVA demo, which is this guy here on the right that we just got. And we're going to go ahead and select that and send it over. I'm going to bring us back here. I'm going to go ahead and go to Workplace. Oh, we didn't go to Workplace there. A little hard using a touch device emulator in an RD, a remote desktop session,
with a touch
remoting
screen.
Into another with a touch screen. Yes, so we're peeling back the layers here. So we have this out. While we're waiting for it to push, actually, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys one that I've already set up. This is what it's going to look like. It doesn't look like a Windows phone, really, at first glance. It kind of looks like more of like an embedded handheld or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
But I assure you, this is a Windows phone. We've got Office down here, and actually you can see my app allow deny list. In effect, I've actually disabled Internet Explorer on this one as well, separately in a deny list. This is my one that I had prepped before. In our other one, I don't believe we'll have that set down. Actually, we will, because we are denying Internet Explorer. Yeah. So you can see here, this is pretty cool. If we go over to apps, that's all we've got. That's all we've got on this phone.
Nice.
Kind of seems a little bit of a step backwards. We spent all this time making all these features, and we're going ahead and shutting them down. But if this is exactly the scenario you're looking for, this probably looks amazing.
Yeah.
If you just want to be able to put these settings down on the device, there you go. Perfect. The nice thing about this is that we can actually go back in here and sync, because I've allowed us to do that. So while we're waiting for assigned...
So just to clarify one point there, with the allow list that we set the settings app on the allow list.
Yes.
And the effect of that was that we had the settings app, but some other apps as well.
Yes.
If we'd wanted to say deny Internet Explorer, we could have been explicit and said deny Internet Explorer.
Exactly.
And in configuration with that allow list.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And actually, to even add another layer to that, there's the option within Config Manager to deny that explicitly through your regular UI.
Yeah.
So if you want to do that, depending on what you want to do, if you're only going to disable store, i.e. maybe games, you can do that through the UI. If you need to start getting really deep in what you want to deny, you can go ahead and use the XML.
Yeah.
So let's see here. Another cool thing I'm going to show you is I'm going to go ahead and restart this device, because we have auto runs running on Office. This is actually, this device here is using the same exact XML that I pushed out to this device. We're going to sync this again. A lot of the times when I'm doing tests, I'll just kind of let it sit there and sync for a while, 2 to 5 minutes, depending on how your environment's configured, maybe a little longer. Here we have our virtual machine assigned access turned off. We're going to turn them back on. But if all else fails, try and sync again. If it's been more than maybe 20 to 30 minutes, check and make sure you've configured everything correctly. Make sure that your configuration baseline is point to the right collection. Make sure that your configuration baseline consists of the correct configuration items. And then also that the collection contains the user that you're testing with.
Yeah.
Tons of layers here. And actually, that might be a good reason to use Intune. A little more straightforward if you're a small environment or you only have a few users who are going to be using mobile devices that you want to manage. It's a little, if you're not experienced with this isn't something that you're very familiar with, maybe you haven't used Config Manager before, that might be a great opportunity for you to dig in on Intune.
Yeah.
So here we go. We're going to see how auto run works with Office. Woo! Boom. There you go. So you start up your device straight out of your pocket, and there you are right in Office, and you're good to go. Great. If you do go ahead and go back to your start screen, you've only got your 3 apps, and that's it. Nice. Let's see if this has come down to this guy yet. Another important thing to note, so as you guys have seen in our demos in this course, a lot of these settings will come across automatically, and you'll just sort of see them populate on the phone. You'll see apps show up, apps disappear. You'll see little disabled signs under things. With kiosk mode, it does require a restart. So it might be there, but you won't know until you restart. So another great thing that I use when I'm just testing, if I know I'm only going to be using assigned access as a test, just to kind of get an idea of what I want the UI to look like when it gets down there, is I'll actually put another policy in that configuration baseline that it's going to be obvious in the UI that the policies are there. Yeah. So I'm not restarting the phone, going back in, going into settings, going into workplace, syncing again.
Yeah. That's actually exactly what I do. I normally set a password policy and increment the number of digits by 1.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you know everything on the server side is working, Intune side is working, and we're just kind of waiting for everything to come down to the phone.
Yeah.
So let's see. Just give it a little bit more time. That might be enough time. And again, it's hard to tell here, but let's go ahead and restart this guy. Just turn him off, start him back up. And if you have any questions about the assigned access, MDM white paper has great sections on there that go through. Not to plug it too much, but I'm telling you, it's a wonderful feature or
white paper
resource that we have out there. Yeah. App allow deny list is also covered very thoroughly there. And once this guy boots up, we'll see if he is in assigned access mode.
Taking him a little longer than the previous one did, so
yeah,
maybe something's changing.
Got quite a few of these guys running here.
In the background.
Oh, are we there? We'll wait here for a minute and see if he pops in. And in the meantime, another thing you can do is if it doesn't look like, yep, he hasn't gotten it yet,
He's not got it yet.
that's fine. We can actually go in and you can see, so when you're working with XMLs, it's very, very, very likely that you might mess up just a very tiny bit, and it's going to end up with the entire XML failing to remediate against the phone.
Yeah.
So you're going to be able to go ahead and see that in here. If we go and right-click and go straight to properties, yeah, not necessarily properties. We want to go in down here. We can see where it's deployed, who it's deployed to. We see that compliance is 0. We can go ahead and view status correctly from here, or directly from here. Run a summarization. Hit refresh, and it will tell you here an error. Oh, there we go. We remediated, and we failed remediation. So,
yeah, but that's good to know. It's great to know where you've got the access.
Something in the XML wasn't correct. That's fine. Time to go run it back in.
Yeah.
I apologize. One last plug for the white paper. It does give you...
It does give you that information.
It gives you instructions on how to go in and actually verify your XML. And so you can actually run it against something and make sure that, okay, syntax is good, it's ready to go.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
great.
That brings us to the end of the infomercial for the white paper for Windows Phone.
Yes.
So coming up, the next module, we're going to be having a look at mobile content management, mobile information management. We've got tons of resources that are available for download and for your exploration, including taking a look at the white paper, which we may have mentioned once or twice inside of this video. Thanks very much for watching, and join us in the next module.
Thank you.